Om Aginatimrandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamanapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti tammayatayo tarvo vinidustam sarvabhutam munimanatoshmi Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay Shiptascha karmadhitaranga mahadye Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana Brinde namaste charanaravindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna baradram Tato mamanasti katyana chapi. I first of all offer millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And all our Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, Dandavat pranams. So, I'm going to speak with Gurudev's mercy, hopefully, as much as he will give me, for the next 10 days. We're going to study together the unfolding of Dasa Mula. This Dasa Mula tattva is described as putting the entire ocean into a jar. In other words, the entire philosophy, the tattva siddhanta, can be very simply contained just in a nutshell, and we can fluff it out enormously. We can spend a week talking about just the Pramana. We can take a week talking about, or a month talking about any of the various Pramayas. So first of all, understand very clearly, these two words sound similar, Pramaya and Praman. Usually people they have to sort of think first. So Praman is the establishment of the evidence. What is the evidence for what we are presenting? What is the authority? Without substantiating the authority, we can't proceed to establish what is that evidence, what is that, or what is that truth, on what platform is that truth going to be based. So today, principally, I want to sort of run up and down the 10 or the 9 pramayas, and I want us to become familiar with the structure of this Dasa Mula, so that we can just visualize it and have it very easily in our pockets, and then we'll proceed day by day to enter into its truths more fully. Okay? So I was thinking that each day we could chant some of this shloka. This shloka is intimidating when we haven't studied it. It seems like a very long, vast verse. But actually, if we take it step by step and unfold it, it's not so. You don't, as I've said before, necessarily have to know these verses, but we should be familiar with, if someone is talking from that verse, we should think, oh yes, I've heard that before. We're trying to make an impression. So, amnaya praha tattvam. Amnaya. This amnaya is what is the scriptural injunction itself. So, 9 truths established by the one body of evidence. So, it's very, very simple. I want you to be, before we leave the class today, you can be repeating all the Dasa Mula. You should be able to do it. It's so simple. No, really. It's three about, because what is Sambandha Gyan? Sambandha Gyan, this is divided into, what is the meaning of Sambandha Gyan? It means relationship, right? So this is about relationship between Krishna and the Jiva, right? That's what relationship is about. So there are three descriptions of Krishna. 2, 3, and 4 are all about Krishna. 4, 5, 2, 3, and 4 are about Krishna. 5, 6, and 7 are about the Jiva. And 8 is a reconciliation of the relationship between the Jiva and Krishna. That's called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. That's when Mahaprabhu reconciles. Because prior to Mahaprabhu, we've discussed previously in Shikshastakam. So we have the evidence first, the Pramana. Then we have three aspects of Krishna. We have Krishna as the supreme truth. And then we have Krishna as his Shakti, his energy. And then we have Krishna in his sweetness. What is the rasa? So these are three aspects of Krishna. And then we have three descriptions of the Jiva. First of all, there is what is called Vibhinamsa Tattva, which is describing the separate nature of the Jiva himself. The Jivas are not manifest from the body of Krishna. Actually, all manifestations come from Swarup Shakti. This we'll discuss tomorrow if we reach Shakti Tattva, which is the second Prameya. So, the Jivas are coming, they're separate. Krishna's avatars, they're called, remember, Swamsa. Krishna is Anksi, he's the original. And then coming from his own body are Swa Amsa. But we are coming from that Swamsa. We are separated, so Vibhin. Vibhin means separated. So these three descriptions of the Jiva. First of all, it's describing his tattva, that he's separated from the principle. It's not like he's coming from the body of Krishna. This we have to understand deeply, because Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada often used to say parts and parcels. That gave the impression to me at that time that we were actually coming from Krishna directly. And it was only later on that I discovered or understood that actually we are coming from Krishna's separated energy. It's a different connection. It's a different relationship. We are always that ashraya. We are always serving the Vishaya. We are always as servant. So the Vishayas are like the avatars. They're like Matsya, Korma, Varaha, etc. in Vaikuntha. They are all Vishnu expansions or Swamsas. Prabhupada also describes it like they're non-different to Krishna. Like if you have one candle and you light many other candles. But we are not like one of those candles, because this is only referring to Krishna. So this is very, very briefly what is that Vibhinamsa, that will be described. And then there are those jivas who are eternally liberated, and then there are those jivas who are eternally bound. So there we've discussed 6 prameyas already, just in a few moments. So can you see actually how simple it is to get the structure in your pocket? It's not at all difficult. Dasa Mula means 10 basic ontological truths pertaining to spiritual life. These were actually given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings, in his Gauravani. What is the Gauravani of Mahaprabhu? Are contained within these teachings. This Jiva Dhamma is not just a publication that one acharya put out. This is an eternal shastra. This Jiva Dhamma, Gurudev has described, is an eternal shastra. So this Dasa Mula is an eternal truth. It's actually capsulating all of the truths about spiritual life in like a jar, like I said at the beginning, like putting the whole ocean into a jar. So we have the three stages of practice. We have Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana, right? The Sambandha is the relationship. The relationship is between me and the Supreme. This also, of course, when I say Supreme, it includes the Supreme Shakti, who is Radha, and all the other energies. So in principle, it's me and Krishna. In Sanskrit, we say Tat Padartha Gyan. Tat means Krishna. Everything about Krishna. This verse, Anyabilasita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnano Bhakti Uttama. So this Gyan that is described in this verse is divided into these two, knowledge of Krishna and knowledge of the Jiva. So the first, or the bulk of this Dasa Mula is taken up with knowledge of Krishna, which is 3, and knowledge of the Jiva. And then comes a reconciliation in the 8th Pramana of this called Achintya Veda Abheda Tattva, that we are simultaneously one with and yet different from Krishna. This reconciliation is there, understand it historically, as I described in that Shikshastakam, that with Ramanuja, or first of all we can say Sankaracharya, he was saying no, or giving the philosophy that no, this Advaitavad, no, it's all one. The Jiva and Krishna are one. And then evolved a speciality through Ramanuja, when he said, no, there's a Vaishishta, there's a speciality in the oneness. And then even stronger, Madhvacharya said, no, there's a total distinction, this duality. So it's a gradual evolution of understanding that where is the Jiva in relationship to Krishna? This is what is unfolding. So this reconciliation comes in the 8th Pramana, that this Achintya Veda Abheda Tattva, that this relationship between the Jiva and Krishna is, that the Jiva is one and yet simultaneously he's different. This is not so difficult to really appreciate. It's described that there are 9 different similarities. 9 different similarities is the right word, actually. There are 9 similarities. One is called Nata Swarup. That means the Jiva is able to absorb knowledge, and Krishna is the complete embodiment of knowledge. Then there is Gyan Swarup. This is very similar. One is about the individual absorbing it, and Gyan Swarup is about the knowledge itself. So these 2 qualities are similar in the Jiva and in Krishna. And then there is Ichamayi Swarup. This Jai. Jai Ho. Radha Gopinath Ju Ki Jai. Sachinandana Gaurari Ki Jai. It's just doing it. The heart of the sadhak and the devotee is to awaken his constant attraction for Radha and Krishna. This is what our sadhan bhajan is actually about. Last night I was listening to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj speaking, and he was asking this one devotee, how much time in the day do you remember Krishna? And this devotee was thinking for a while, and then he said, well, directly and indirectly. Indirectly is when I'm perhaps cleaning the temple or doing some seva, but directly, perhaps not very many minutes of the day, am I directly focusing on Krishna. So he was very much encouraging this direct connection. This is actually what is pure bhajan, when we can directly be meditating on the beautiful form of the Lord. Don't worry about it. Beautiful form of the Lord. How much? Because there's an injunction. It says, Smartavya Shatadam Vishnu Vishmartavya Nagatuchit. That always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. But how difficult is that? To actually be thinking of that beautiful, sweet form of the Lord. When we're hearing Harikatha, specifically about the Lord's pastimes, about Leela, this is the point that I'm making now, that we want to reach this place of Leela. We want to reach this place of contemplation on the divine, beauteous form of the Lord. That is our goal and our object. We are hearing this tattva that is presented in Dasa Mula to give us a strong foundation to stay steady in our material condition. We are in a conditioned body. We have conditioned consciousness, thinking that I am this body, I am the mind, I have this particular place where I stay, I am doing this with my life, I will do this today, etc., etc. All of these things, most of them, if we analyze them, are completely separate actually from my meditation on Krishna. They're supporting my meditation on Krishna, but the actual consciousness, this actual focus on the beauteous Lord of the form of the Lord is not always there. We're not always strong enough in that bhajan. So that is our desire. That is the purpose of going through this Dasa Mula, is to give us more knowledge of Krishna. We need that tattva, because the more knowledge of Krishna, then the more ignorance is dispelled from the conditioned mind or the conditioned consciousness. The more we understand deeply why I'm here and what is the purpose of my existence and what is my relationship with Krishna, the more I can deeply understand this, then because we have to be balanced in our devotional practice. If we just talk the highest kata and then you go away and argue and criticize and do all kinds of other things, which we do, all of us do, we all have this failure, there seems to be like this huge gap that is created between what I hear and understand and what I actually do and think most of the time. So somehow we want to minimize that gap. We want to make ourselves whole individuals so that we can be bringing and absorbing that beauty of the Lord fully into our everyday lives. This is the pure sadhak. This is the Mahabhagavat. We're hearing the glories of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj last night, how he would spend his days in translation and the balance of his time in trying to manifest that huge temple. And his bodily needs were minimized to perform those two activities in principle. And then traveling in itself takes up a lot of energy. But if that energy that I'm doing while I'm traveling is conflicting with my meditation on Krishna directly, gradually, of course, we understand the science that by the performance of our seva, for example, cleaning, etc., when we may not be thinking of Krishna, this is creating sukriti. This is creating a good place in the heart for Krishna to manifest more strongly. So all of our making cakes, etc., taking photographs, doing cleaning, managing, doing so many things for supporting and serving the devotees, even though I'm not directly feeling the same, that attraction to Krishna that I may feel just even a few moments or a few hours of the day, but that is creating a platform for me, for that seed, that bhakti lata, to actually flourish. So this is why we're hearing tattva. I have to say this because the heart of the honest sadhak is that he really just wants some inspiration for his attraction to Radha and Krishna. This is what the heart needs. If we stay too much in the mental quantum is like the office, so to speak, and the heart is like the garden. But the two have to actually come together. This is the gap between sometimes the heart's desire or feelings and my intelligence or my knowledge. We have to synchronize. We have to become whole. It has to become balanced. Many times as I travel, I find that the devotees have a great, often imbalance in their lives. They're struggling with this particular aspect of imbalance. They get either too much knowledge, which can create an impersonal mentality in our various relationships. We're always thinking of just the tattva, in a sense, but the heart hasn't been softened. So it becomes a little imbalanced, and then there's a struggle, this constant struggle of trying to reconcile the two forces in our lives of absorption of the knowledge and the sweetness of the truth, the actual bhav. That is what we're hoping for. So I hope that when I'm presenting this, that constantly you can be interrupting me and asking me if you feel something is becoming imbalanced, if you feel personally that it's too much tattva. For example, I began to describe a little bit about the Jiva tattva. It goes into quite concise terminology. We just have to know a few words, really, of Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is usually so much clearer than trying to translate the Sanskrit into English, because it becomes like a punch button. When you say tattva, it means so much more than just truth. Tattva signifies the truth that is presented in the Vedic conclusion, the Siddhanta. But when we just say truth, it could mean all kinds of different truths that are apparent. So, number one is the Pramana. 2, 3, and 4 are all about Krishna. 5, 6, and 7 are all about the Jiva. And 8 is the reconciliation of the relationship between Krishna and the Jiva. That's what it is. Achintya Veda Abheda Tattva. I began to describe these 9 similarities. One is called Ichamayi. That means the Jiva is filled with desire. Krishna is also filled with desire. Krishna is Paraswarup. That means he gives light. The Jiva also can give light. If you go and make a sad person very joyful and happy, that person becomes illuminated. If you sing a nice kirtan or speak some nice, or make a nice cake or something, that person can become lighter. So we can also share that illumination, as can Krishna. And there is the Abhidheya, which is also illuminated, also is shining. Similarly, Krishna's eternal Swarup, his eternal nature, is also shining. So these are similarities. And then there is another called Bhakta Swarup. This means Krishna is an enjoyer and the Jiva is an enjoyer. So these are absolute similarities, but the difference between the Jiva and Krishna is so vast and immense. Krishna is like the ocean, and the Jiva is like a tiny drop of the ocean. So now the person without so much knowledge, he becomes bewildered, because perhaps he's appreciating the similarities, like the impersonal or Mayavad school. They're appreciating that, yes, I feel wonderful, I just want to focus on myself. This is very unfortunate in a sense, but the self is beautiful, is rich, is packed with sweetness. But if that becomes my singular focus, then the extraordinary opportunity to know or taste what is actual love. Because real love is love there must be two. There must be relationship. If it's just singular, then it's impersonal. Then it's not ultimately the most satisfying. It's not the highest potential. So this requires knowledge to understand this. In the world today, this knowledge is sadly lacking. Most are pursuing the knowledge of impersonal realization. They want to be satisfied themselves, but they don't know that the self The nature of the self, the reality of the self, is that he is Jivera Surupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Veda Abheda Prakash. He's a servant of Krishna. This is the nature of the self. So this will be discussed. So, in the 8th is the reconciliation of the 2 groups of 3. This gentleman has come at the back. Give him. We're discussing Dasa Mula, these 10 ontological truths. So now have you captured this in a sense? There's the Pramana, 3 about Krishna, 3 about Jiva, and the reconciliation of the relationship. Now the Sambandha Gyan Hogya. The Sambandha Gyan is finished there. Now we come to Abhidheya. So what is the Abhidheya? Shuddha Bhakti. This is the Abhidheya. This is the 9th. Very simple. And what is the 10th? Krishna Priti. What is the Prayojana? Love for Krishna. So you see straight away, these 10 have just reduced just to a small jar, in a sense. We have the 10 truths. Nothing to be intimidated about at all. Because sometimes when we hear, oh, Dasa Mula, it might sound so high and far away. But then just a little bit of a microscope and examining what are these 10 ontological truths that will carry us to the highest conception. Root. The 10 the 10 significant roots of truth, the 10 absolute realities. So who wants just to have a go straight away? Yashoda, just look at me and just tell me straight away, how much can you remember the 10, the Dasa Mula? First, simple. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur hasn't made it complicated at all. We just need a little bit of focus and presence of mind. So, Anaya Prahad Tattvam Iha Paramam. So now when you go through the verse, because each day I'd like just to say one line. So the Amnaya Prahad Tattvam, this is representing the Pramana. Then Harim Iha Paramam. Paramam means topmost. Harim is Hari. So Krishna is the topmost. Harim Iha Paramam. You see that? Those next, the 4th, 5th and 6th words. And then Sarva Shaktim, that Krishna is the possessor of all Shakti. This is the 3rd Prameya. And then the 4th Prameya is Rasabdim. He is the embodiment of all ras. So you see in the first line, we have the Prameya, the Pramana, then Krishna the Absolute, then Krishna full of Shakti, and then Krishna the supreme embodiment of all ras. So this is just in the first line. So you see how simple that line is. Amnaya Praha Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam. Harim Iha Paramam, the absolute reality. Then Sarva Shaktim, what are Krishna's Shaktis? Then Rasabdim, Krishna as Akila Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of rasa. You see how simple that is, really and truly. And then we'll just go through this whole verse, and then more or less I've explained this sheet of paper, and then nothing is foreign on here for us. So then Tad Vibhinamsams Chajivan. What is the tattva of the jiva? He is described as Vibhinamsa. And I've already described what is Vibhinamsa. You remember? You can say? What? Vibhin means separated, as opposed to Swa. Swa means own. So Swamsa are all of Krishna's avatars, all the Vishnu avatars. Swa Amsa. Remember this forever now, because we say Swarup, Swadam, Swatantra, Swaha. This is all me, I, own. This Swa Bhakti Shriyam, Krishna's own bhakti, so own. So Swa Angsa, Angsa, Krishna's own forms, his Vishnu tattvas. But we are Vibhinamsa. This Vibhin means separated Angsas. We're not Krishna's own. We're not Vishnu avatar. That is not our tattva. We are Jiva tattva. We are Vibhinamsa, separated. Very simple, not difficult. So Vibhinamsa, few key words. So then Prakriti, Kavalitam, this material nature. There is the Jiva, and then there is the Prakriti, Kavalitam. This is saying that this Jiva, Tad Bibinamsam Chajivan, this is the Jiva, then Prakriti Kavalitam, we are swallowed up. Kavalitam means swallowed. Swallowed up by the Prakriti, swallowed up by the material environment to become conditioned. You understand? Very beautiful. How sublime, really. Huh? Yes, but it's a terrible reality. But when we write the reality down, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has done, and we see it as it is in truth, it becomes much more accessible and therefore more simple to purify. If you don't know who the enemy is, if you don't know what is wrong with you, if you have some sickness, like Kaliya Prabhu has a fever now. Now, if we suddenly found out, oh, it's malaria, it's pinpointed, then straight away we know exactly the herbs and the remedies to cure malaria, no problem. If it's, typhoid, straight away we know what is that. Whatever it is, that's why we do a blood test straight away. So this is like, what is the blood test, so to speak? What is the Jiva's problem? Why is the Jiva in a suffering condition? It's because he's been swallowed up by the illusion. Prakriti here is translated as illusion, and Kavalitam is the swallowing up of illusion. So, Tad Vibinamsams Chajivan, Prakriti Kavalitam, swallowed up by illusion. Very simple. And then it's going to describe those liberated, those eternally liberated jivas. We're going to go into detail through the days of, particularly I want to discuss more than ever during these 10 days, is the Jiva tattva. Because this Jiva tattva is very empowering. Once we understand very, very deeply what is our condition here, why am I here, whose fault is it that I am here, and how can I get out of this material consciousness, then the whole process becomes very simple. There's no bewilderment at any time when I know this Jiva Tattva very, very significantly. So we'll focus quite a lot on this. I have 2 pages from Jiva Dharma, chapter 16, that we'll actually just read together. There's 7 questions that Brajanath puts to Babaji. And these questions are all coming from a mood of, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that I'm in this condition. It's somebody else's fault. Certainly it's Krishna's fault. But it's not my fault. There was a survey many years ago, actually, and in America, they went to hundreds and hundreds of prisons. They have thousands of prisons in America. And they asked all the criminals, why are you in jail? And something like 97% all said that it was not their fault. It was their mother didn't bring them up properly, their father bullied them, they got in the wrong company, it was some girl, something, but it wasn't their fault. This is our condition in the material world, that we actually think that it's not our fault. This misconception must be dispelled if we want to actually get out of this condition. If we want to purify ourselves from this misconception of illusion, this is the illusion, that it's somebody else's fault. And even devotees that have been practicing for many years still find so many excuses. Many times I'm thinking of carrying a signpost with me that, it's No excuses. We always try to make excuses for our own. We think we're very beautiful, and we are very beautiful. We are spirit, so we are so wonderful and pure, and we have all good qualities. But we don't want to sort of take on board these negative qualities that actually we have accumulated through our association with the material energy. But as soon as I take responsibility for that, like I said previously, that a madman, if he knows that he's mad, he's not mad anymore. If he doesn't know he's mad, he's really cuckoo. He's out to lunch. If he doesn't know, if he's just wandering around doing crazy things and doesn't know he's mad, then he's really got a problem. But if he knows there's something wrong with him, then he can be purified of that. So what is the root of our, what you can say, dysfunction practically, that Brajanath talks about all the way through? He says, first of all, why did Krishna do this? Is it Maya's fault? Did you make the Jiva so weak, etc.? So these 7 questions are very beautifully reconciled by Babaji. So I want to go through those 7 questions because they're very revealing and they're very important to have on the tips of our tongue, so to speak, because for the practitioner, we're hearing these truths for 2-fold reasons. One principal reason is for our own purification. As we purify ourselves in this world, a natural feeling of compassion for those who are not in such a fortunate condition will arise in the heart. Naturally, the hearts melt, and we naturally want to assist others to taste this jewel that we are witnessing in ourselves. This is its nature. This is the nature of the development of bhakti, is that we want to share it. We want to try and gift it to others. We've tasted something. Now, this is a whole science to how to present this, because we have to appreciate deeply the uniqueness of every single individual. None of us are the same. All of us are coming from millions of lifetimes of different cultures, different existences, planets practically. We're all so unique. And I've said previously before how sometimes in an institutional environment, it's a mistake to try and make everybody the same. It's like one of the stages of realization of Krishna is Paramatma realization. So you realize that the Paramatma who looks the same is in every single heart. He has 4 arms, he's carrying a conch, discus, lotus, and club, like that. Super Soul is in the heart. So with only that singular vision, you might start to think that, well, all jivas are the same. And in one sense, their spiritual quality is the same, but the uniqueness, the variety is phenomenal. This is what Krishna personally wants to taste. He wants to taste our uniqueness, our individuality. So this uniqueness will start to blossom when we take responsibility fully for our own situations. When we don't take that responsibility, that's when you can sort of like obliterate to some degree your amazing uniqueness. When we fully take responsibility for our actions, for ourselves, then our uniqueness can flourish much more dynamically. This is the truth. And because this is getting in touch with our souls, with actually who we are. Tunga Vidya Didi. Just for the sake of mati, sorry. It's okay. But Tunga Vidya now is going to explain to you these 10 truths that you've just got the paper and how you can simply remember them. I want everybody to say regularly these 10 truths. So you can walk around thinking 3 for Krishna, 3 for the Jiva, 1 for reconciliation, 1 for what is the path and what is the goal. That's all it is. So when you can say it like that, then you've captured it. You've captured the Dasa Mula in essence. And then from this, you can flourish out. So we're just making an overview today, more or less, So, Tunga, would you just like to say just briefly, without looking at the paper? No, I'll point you to remember. Sorry? Twice a day. For 10 days. Sorry. I'm recording it so you can listen if you want. Yes, I'm talking about all the jivas being different. But now, quickly, Tunga Vidya, just out loud, just tell Mati. Okay? We're just making the roadmap, or we're examining the map closely. And then we're going to go into all the side streets and we're going to go more deeper into it. But we just want, for my mind anyway, when I'm approaching this initially, I need to have that sort of diagram. I need to have that simple access. So I was describing the uniqueness of the jiva, how we become more empowered when we accept responsibility for our situation. So we'll speak these just 2 pages from Jiva Tattva in chapter 16. When we come to that, we'll discuss Krishna Tattva first. And then it's talking tad vibimuktams cha bhavet. This is saying that those liberated, eternally liberated souls. So those eternally liberated souls are within Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan. They are the eternally liberated souls. So 3 types of jiva are discussed in the second line of the verse. The initially, what is Vibhinamsa Tattva? And then there's bound jivas, Baddha jiva, and then there's liberated jivas. The bound jivas are this Prakriti Kavalitam. That is the bound jiva, swallowed up. Got that? This Chabhavet means by nature they're eternally liberated. Tad vimuktams cha bhaved. They're eternally liberated. Those last 4 words in the second line are describing the mukta jivas, those ones who are eternally liberated. So in the second line we have Jiva Tattva. The first line we have the Praman rather, and we have 3 descriptions of Krishna Tattva. We have Harim, which is Krishna, Paramam. Krishna is the Supreme Absolute, Sarva Shaktim, he is all Shakti, and Rasamtim. He's Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's Krishna in the first line, the Jiva in the second line. Now we come to the third line, Beda Abeda Prakasham. This is this reconciliation of difference and non-difference. This is the gift of Mahaprabhu. This we will discuss at length, and this reconciles the different sampradayas. We have Ramanuja saying Vaishisht Advaitavad, that this speciality in the oneness. And then Madhvacharya, no, 2, Dvaitavad. And then we have Vishnu Swami. Vishnu Swami, he is Shuddhadvaitavad. There's a pure oneness in there. He's talking something about spontaneous attraction, but it's only spontaneous attraction to Krishna. He's talking about Ragmarg, Vishnu Swami. This is the Rudra Sampradaya. And then the Nimbaditya, the Chatusnan, the 4 Kumara Sampradaya. This is even more close to our line, actually, or to what we're thinking, with this aspiration for service to Radha, an aspiration for the Gopis Bhav. These are the gifts that Mahaprabhu took from that Sampradaya to incorporate it in the Madhva Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, which is what we follow in here now, which is linking through Rupa Goswami. So these 4 Sampradayas are reconciled by this Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva of Mahaprabhu. Simultaneously one, yet different from. This is the sweetness of Mahaprabhu. Light, yes. This Beda, this illumination of this philosophy. In the translation, it's saying manifestation, but manifestation of like the illumination or the light, like Gurudev's commentary in the Bhagavad Gita is called Sa'arta. What's it called? Prakash. Maharaj, what's the name of Gurudev's commentary in Bhagavad Gita? You have the Sa'arta Darshini, the Sa'arta. I can't just remember right now. Mahamantra, you remember? Gurudev's commentary in the Bhagavad Gita. Prakashika Vritti, it's called. Prakashika Vritti. It's the illumination on the vritti, on the understanding. Prakashik. So I'm just talking about this word again, prakash. It's a very beautiful word. It means illumination, or it can be translated as manifestation. So prakash. So here we have this word beda abeda prakasham. That's in the third line. Then sakalam api hare sadhanam. Then what is the sadhan? What is the sadhya? What is the means of attainment of Hari? And that is Shuddha Bhaktim. That is leading to the 9th Prameya. Understand? Are you all with me? Mahamantra, are you with me? I've just shown how to remember the Dasa Mula. You probably already know. I'll say it again for Mahamantra's sake. First we have the Pramana. Then we have 3 aspects of Krishna, 3 aspects of the Jiva, then a reconciliation of the relationship between the Jiva and Krishna. These 7 Prameyas constitute Sambandha Gyan. And then the 9th is the Abhidheya tattva. And the 10th is the Prayojana tattva. So it just makes it very simple. So this is the purpose why I feel that Gurudev wanted us very much to be familiar with this Dasa Mula. If we are familiar with this like ladder, and this very clearly we develop after a few days a picture of it in our minds, of these 2 groups of 3, the reconciliation, what is the sadhan and what is the prayojan. Then in any time we're speaking to anybody, in public or just one-on-one like that, you can keep on referring to these 10 truths. You can weave them into whatever you're presenting, because all truths in existence are within these 10 mulas, these 10 roots. Okay? So then we've reached this sadhanam shuddha bhaktim. And then in the 4th line now, sadyam tat piritim evati upadishyati. This sadyam, what is the sadhya? The sadyam is tat piritim, this sweetness of love that the jiva naturally has through his service to Krishna. More than that, his service to Sri Radha and Krishna, and more than that, his service just to Sri Radha. So there's all kinds of gradations of the devotees' desires to love and serve the Lord. It can be in Vaidimag in Vaikuntha, then it can be in Dwarka, then it can be in Mathura, or it can be in Mathura, then Dwarka, then in Braj, then it can be in Vatsalya Bhav, or can be Sakya Bhav, then Vatsalya Bhav, and then Madhurya, etc. Then within Madhurya, it can be closer and closer to Sri Radha. Ultimately, it can be Manjari Bhav, because in Manjari Bhav, then all of the same experiences that Sri Radha tastes from her relationship with Krishna are experienced by that Manjari. So all these different gradations must be understood to see the ladder. Once we can see the pathway clearly, the purpose of studying these scriptures is to examine the maps, to see what is the maps. And then by the mercy of the great devotees, we can enter deeply into those truths ourselves and have some realization of these truths in our lives. So then this evati upadishyati, this is certainly the complete instruction. This is what this Evati Upadesh, like Upadesh, this Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction. So Evati Upadeshiti. Then Janam, this the people. This is the instruction to the people that Mahaprabhu, Gaurachandra Swayam Swaha, who resembles a moon, this is his personal instruction. So there you have the whole Dasa Mula tattva in a structure. That's what I've just tried to explain. I've just tried. Oh, last one. I think I'll have to make some more copies of this. Actually, maybe Tungaviti, you can print up some copies of this today. I've just given out 10 today already. I thought I'd only have 10 for the whole time. But so try, and you will be able to remember this more easily when you tell others about it, when you show it to somebody else, how it goes in such a simple sequence. You should explain to Kalia. He probably already knows because I did this in Sardinia before. But I didn't go into details about the actual verse. I didn't break the verse down clearly. I didn't say. But if you look in the Sanskrit, and then we can begin to learn this verse. Amnaya praha tattvam. What is the praman? Amnaya praha tattvam. And then the praman supporting what? The first three pramayas. Harim, Iha, Paramam. Harim is Krishna. Paramam, topmost Krishna. Absolute Krishna. Then Sarva Shaktim, his energies. And then Rasabdim. So that first line, try to learn that first line. One day at a time. Each day just learn a line. Amnaya praha tattvam harim iha paramam sarva shaktim rasabdim. So this, I haven't explained anything, so to speak. I've just tried to create a structure so that we feel safe to enter into this house of Dasa Mula and progress through to understanding these truths more fully. This Dasa Mula, part of this understanding the structure is so that I can have it in my hand. I can have it in my pocket very easily. And then as time goes on, as my devotion matures, then I will understand more deeply how is Krishna that supreme person. Krishna is described as having 60 qualities as Lord Narayan. The demigods have 50 qualities in full. Lord Brahma has 55 to a great degree. Shivji has 55 to a greater degree, the same 55, but to a greater degree. It's like we have the same qualities as the Devas, but ours are in very, very small, stunted form. But the Devas, they have theirs much more developed. And then Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are still more developed further, because Lord Brahma doesn't have even a birth. And Shivji manifests, is a different Shakti. Shivji ultimately is Vishnu Tattva, but he's called Vishnu Abbas. We have a very wonderful special day very, very soon during this 10 days when I'm doing this Dasa Mula on the 20th is Shivaratri. And then we can discuss at length this Shiva Tattva, which is so powerful and beautiful to understand. And this again is not a difficult Tattva. It is complex, but it's not actually difficult when you thread it apart. When you pull it apart very carefully and analyze the three aspects of Lord Shivji, for example. He has Gopeshwar Mahadev, he has Sadashiva, and he has Rudra Shiva in this world. And then there is Shambhu in between, making a link. And it's quite simple. All of these truths can be pictorialized into a diagram. It would be nice to have a diagram more of this, but we are Kali Yuga, people, and it's not easy for us to keep these truths. We forget, but if we see it in a sort of, at least in our mind, in some sort of very logical step-by-step sequence, then we can make access into it. So, in discussing the Praman, the Vedic conclusion, the Veda has originated, of course, from the Supreme Lord himself. It's actually come from the sky of his heart to advent these truths within this world, the Veda. And there are this Chatushloki, the four principal shlokas that were imparted to Brahmaji to understand the entire creation in relationship to Krishna, how Krishna has manifested this world. How is he the absolute? This is the first truth that is established. But how will you believe this truth if we don't fully accept the Vedic teachings themselves, the Vedanta? How can we prove the truth of the Veda? How would you say? You can say? Okay. Maharaj, just say in a couple of sentences, what would you... Perfect. 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 In other words, Guru. Without the Master, how can we possibly begin to understand the matter of transcendence? We are in a conditioned state. How can something from a conditioned state become spiritualized by itself? It can't. Just like how can fire manifest from wood without another fire coming and touching it? The fire is inherent, just like the spiritual knowledge is inherent within us. But how can that spiritual knowledge ever blossom without the mercy of Guru? So the equation of all spiritual life and spiritual practice is based on the platform of love. Everything is in that world of love. If we, in our discussions of tattva, etc., separate too much from that point of love, it becomes difficult. We have to keep reconciling everything on the platform of love. All questions in existence. So love is a relationship, and this part of the relationship has to be understood like Sajjan Maharaj has explained. This relationship of I am very small and Krishna is very big. It starts with that. It begins that. That is the beginning process. If that's not in place, then all talk about Raganuga and my familiarity with Radha and Krishna is just fictitious. It's just imagination. Unless that very deep impression of my honor and worship towards the Supreme Lord is very fixed and strong, then nothing, it's like an equation in mathematics. If 1 and 1 don't make 2 at the beginning, if they make 3, then everything else is out. So first of all, this Aishwarya Gyan, which is described in Gita in the 10th chapter, so beautifully. It's like a fresh mountain stream in the mind of purification to appreciate the greatness of the Lord and the insignificance of the Jiva, because this will create the vital quality of humility. To appreciate what Sajjan Maharaj is saying of how can you understand that descending power unless you're bowing your head to receive it. The atheist or the non-devotee or that proud person, he has that opposite quality of pride, and he's trying to climb to that world by his own volition. He's trying to crash the gates of heaven. It will never ever be that way. So our sadhana, our practice, is to soften the heart and bow the head. So often, Guru, he will administer that operation to the neophyte. In many ways, he will encourage that humility within the heart of the sadhak. He will show his own extraordinary potencies sometimes to the sadhak, so that the sadhak can see his own inferiority in that sense. This is not creating a loving relationship where it's like so intimate. In one sense, it's not like, there's no familiarity is the word I'm looking for. It's not a familiar relationship initially. It's very much an honorable relationship. We don't see with our Gurudev when he was here, people walking around with Gurudev with their arms around him all the time, or him just sitting back, just without any sort of Aishwarya between the disciples. There was so much there. But in the heart, internally, there is that bubbling sweetness of real relationship Because there has to be that honor. Raghavan Chandrika describes this very clearly. You should study this scripture to understand this difference between what is that rag or vishrambena seva, what is that intimate relationship with Guru. Because we crave that intimacy. If we don't find intimacy with Guru, we will look for intimacy in this world. And that could be disastrous if it's with someone who is not so devotionally inclined. If we're seeking that intimacy with good devotees, so to speak, then that intimacy will be around our devotional seva. That will be in that area. But if it's with someone who wants to enjoy something separate from Krishna, then that will be disastrous for our bhakti entirely. So we have to appreciate very deeply this relationship with Guru, this descending process. We've just tried to make, or we're in process of making one documentary, and it's called Descending Solutions, because the materialist today is so much aware of his suffering environment, because we've messed it up so much in Kali Yuga at this point in time. It's reached a torturous place where you can't even eat proper food, you can't drink proper water. Practically the air is polluted, certainly the sound vibrates. Even here in Vrindavan, just till a few days ago, they were driving these stupid machines all around in the Jamuna there, trying to inflict their own desires on the transcendental Jamuna. To what success can man ever reach? All he can do is hurt himself. So we're in this world where man has really tortured himself more and more and more. And now they are trying to be brilliant and think of all sorts of material solutions to solve the material problem. The problem is not material from the very beginning. The problem is spiritual. The problem is lack of desire for self-realization or contemplation or introspection. That is the problem. And instead they've just tried to enjoy the material senses, and therefore they want to create an environment for more and more material pleasure. Therefore more and more problems are coming, because this is opposed to the very nature of the Jiva. If Krishna fulfilled all the material desires, what sort of benevolent, kind person would he be? You know, if a wealthy father spoils his child, indulges his child, what sort of character will that child grow to be in the future? He won't be very strong. So sometimes Krishna will deny our various material desires to create a much stronger character and personality that is necessary for us to appreciate in our relationship with him. Because Krishna wants the very best. So we try to create this documentary, which will take quite a while to produce, but it's about descending solutions. It's about trying to prompt the materialist towards self-realization. And an important part of this message that we're saying is that it's not a collective solution. It's not that everybody is going to do the same thing. Not that everybody is the same. We've already discussed this point. It's very important to appreciate our own uniqueness in the world and take responsibility for our own situation. So this is going to be discussed at length in Jiva Tattva when we discuss the questions that Brajanath puts to Babaji. So now it's 9:25, and I'm going to give these classes every morning starting from 8 o'clock until 9:30. I'm British, and it's on British time. I'll be here exactly at 8, and I'll finish at exactly 9:30, unless there's a very necessary thing. Yeah. Unless there's what? Yeah. That's okay. We can accommodate. It was like this last time. So between 8 o'clock and 9:30 I will speak every morning, and between 5 o'clock and 6:30 every evening I will go over what we spoke in the morning and bring it round more to a lila appreciation, because the purpose of our studying this tattva is to enter lila. The tattva is like the horse, but who is the rider and where is he going? We're going to the relationship, the sweet loving relationship with Sri Radha and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. This is the goal that we must constantly be inspired by and fueled by. So we will discuss that as much as we can weave that amongst this Dasa Mula. This Dasa Mula, I'm just taking these 10 days to discuss only this tattva. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has discussed from the 13th chapter through till the 25th chapter practically, or you can say at least the 22nd chapter of Jiva Dharma, this Dasa Mula tattva. It's like the heart of Jiva Dharma actually. The first 10, 11, 12 chapters are more or less just clearing the ground, are just giving us faith basically in these conclusions. And now from the 13th chapter through to the 22nd, he's becoming very clear and significant in what is the tattva, what is the Siddhanta. And we must be versed in this, we must understand this. So today, just to recap, I've just simply tried to share with you my understanding of what is the structure of this Dasa Mula. I haven't really gone into any of the pramayas very much at all. I've just mentioned them very briefly, I've just touched on them. The idea is to try and see how accessible is this tattva. Already I think all of you understand that it is 3 about Krishna, 3 about the Jiva, the relationship between the two which is reconciled in the 8th pramaya, and then the 9th is the method or the Abhidheya, which is Shuddha Bhakti, and the 10th is the goal, the sadhya, which is Krishna Pirti. So there it's very simple, those 10 truths. So we should every day just say these truths, be aware of these truths, learn them. And this is not even learning Sanskrit, what I'm just described. It's just these are called ontological truths. That means that the very foundation of all spiritual reality are contained in here. How amazing that just by knowing this relationship between these truths, you have everything in existence in your hand. So I think this is very empowering for the devotee to contemplate, to have these truths, because we will go in the world, we'll have to deal with, we're all Westerners here, we have to deal with so many other opposing forces to this force of Braj that we are so benedicted with at the moment. In Braj, everything supports our devotional practice, everything. If we try and break with devotional practice, we'll get a sharp, hard slap. But outside of Braj, everything supports the material environment, the material nature, the material enjoyment. And you have to work hard to stay aloof from that. So we will have to face that. So we need both aspects. We need to stay in Braj and we need to sharpen our axe here so that when we go out we can help those who are more illusioned and never ourselves become illusioned. And you will never become illusioned once we understand this tattva. Certainly by Jiva tattva. Gold Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Any one quick question? Yeah, chapter 16 is the name of it is the Jivas and Maya. I think it's just called the Jivas and Maya. Is it? The Jivas and Maya, yeah. So I'm going to give you 2 pages from that. Oh yes, Pramana, Jivas and Maya. So, and then we're going to read through that together. We can just take it in turns to read, and each sentence we can just examine over a couple of days. It's very, very powerful impression. I've actually been through these 2 pages in, I think, about 15 different countries, and I have it in 9 different languages. These 2 same pages, and every single time the devotees always become so enlivened, because there's always someone in the assembly who still doesn't believe that it's his fault and has good, strong, solid objections. Because actually it's not our fault at the end of the line when we discover it. So you have to reconcile this, because actually the cards were stacked against us. It's described that we have no bal shakti, no spiritual potency to make the right decision. So it's not our fault. But it is our fault as well. And we will never understand it because it's achintya, it's inconceivable. So we can discuss it forever. And you can never sit back and say, now I've understood Jiva Tattva. We want to sit back and we say, yes, now I understand that Jiva Tattva is not understandable. Then you have begun to appreciate what is Jiva Tattva. It's very dynamic. It's very exciting. Jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Radha Gopinath Ju ki jai, Satchidananda Gaura Hari ki jai, Ananta Gaura Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari. Gopinata Radha, Gopinata Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. O Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. O Radhe, 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 Radhe. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Satchidananda Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Gopinath Chu ki jai, Gopinath Bhavan ki jai, Dasa Mula ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhaveva cha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.